Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Imam Azuri, and I present to you all. In my part is introduction and introduction to logic. First thing, Islamic logic ilmu al-mantiq serve as an important tool in Islamic scholarship to organize reasoning and prevent errors in understanding religious knowledge. Muslim scholarship uses logic not as an independent philosophy, but as a supportive discipline for theology and other Islamic science. This approach is reflected in Jawharah al-Faridah fi Hal Rumus al-Qaridah by Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn al-Hajj al-Sulami al-Fasil, where logical reasoning is applied to clarify complex theological ideas. Therefore, this study highlights the role of ilmu al-mantiq in enhancing clarity and coherence in Islamic theological discourse. Alright, we move to the next part, is introduction to logic. The first point, logic is a tool for correct thinking. Logic functions as an instrument that protects the mind from errors in reasoning, especially when forming definition and arguments. Second, logic does not produce new truths, but the purpose of logic is not to determine reality itself, but to guide the mind in understanding concepts and judging statements correctly. For the next point, logic helps distinguish sound and faulty arguments. Through logic, students can identify valid reasoning and avoid weak or incorrect conclusion. Move to the next point. Logic serves other Islamic science. Logic is a supporting science that assists fields such as jurisprudence, theology, and principle of Islamic law, rather than being an independent goal. Next point, studying logic does not contradict Islam. On the contrary, it strengthens one's ability to understand religious texts and scholarly discussion accurately. For the last point, the study of logic begins with basic concepts. It starts with fundamental topics such as conception and judgment, definitions, types of terms, and method of reasoning, which prepare students for advanced studies.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Imran Daniel bin Muhammad Razi. My matric number is 2213925. And I will talk about the overview of the Muqaddimah for the book Al-Jawhara Al-Farida fi Hal Rumus Al-Kharida. In this specific section, the author set the stage for the entire book. He clarifies that his goal is not to write a general history of logic, but to focus specifically on the state of logic in Morocco during the 13th century AH. The Muqaddimah reveals a fascinating historical shift. The author explained that during this era, logic was taught through manzumat, poems, and shuruh, commentaries. Unlike other periods where logic was feared or rejected, in 13th century Morocco, these texts were widely accepted and studied without hesitation. The author argues that Morocco acted as a stronghold for Ash'ari rationalism, even when logic faced opposition in Damascus or declined in Andalus, it was preserved in the Maghreb. This is where our secondary research becomes crucial. These primary texts support the arguments of the modern historian Khalid al-Ruwayhib. In his book Islamic Intellectual History, in the 17th century, al-Ruwayhib challenges the narrative of decline. He argued that Islamic intellectual history did not stagnate. Instead, it remained vibrant and active in later centuries. Ibn al-Hajj's introduction serves as proof of this vibrancy. Moving to the importance and recommendation, Based on this mukaddimah, I have identified the critical importance of this topic to us as students of logic. It corrects our historical understanding. We often hear that philosophy and logic died in the Islamic world after Al-Ghazali and Ibn Rushd. This text prove that is false. Logic simply moved location to the west, Maghrib, and changed format, become more accessible through poetry. Finally, regarding future research, the author explicitly mentioned the difficulty he faced in reading the original sources because they were stone printed, lithographed, and very hard to decipher. Therefore, my suggestion for future research is that modern scholars should focus on digitalizing and critically editing this Maghrib lithography. By cleaning up this text, we can uncover even more about this hidden era of Islamic logic. That's all from me. Thank you.
Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Nizamuddin bin Manaim and my meter number is 2316473. And my part, I will tell about and I will present about the biography of the author. Abu Abdullah Muhammad al-Muhaddis Ibnu al-Hajj as-Sulami was a author of this work. He was a distinguished hadith scholar from Fes, which is from Maghribi. He was born shortly after 1200 Al-Hijrah to a well-established family of knowledge and piety, and he traced his lineage to the noble companion Al-Abbas ibn Mirdas as-Sulami. His upbringing in a scholarly environment played a major role in shaping his intellectual development. Then we go to the information about the author. It can be found in several biographical works, including Riyadh Al-Anwar by his sibling and student, Muhammad Al-Talib ibn al-Hajj. And the author is described as highly dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge through both extensive reading and direct learning from leading scholars of his time. For his education and expertise, he studied Arabic language and fiqh under scholars such as Muhammad ibn Ammar al-Zarwali, Muhammad ibn Mashur, and Idris ibn Maulana Zain al-Abidin al-Husaini al-Iraqi. He later specialized in kalam, tafsir, hadith, mantiq, and related disciplines under his father, Sheikh Abu al-Fayyad Hamidun and Sheikh Muhammad al-Tayyib ibn Kiran. He achieved mastery in various Islamic and Arabic sciences, particularly in Hadith, where he became a reference in matan analysis, ta'dil, and the sciences of jar and ta'dil. Due to his expertise, he was widely recognized with the title Muhaddis and described by his student as Al-Alim Al-Kamil. He passed away on 18 Shawwal 1274 Al-Hijrah and was buried in the Ibn al-Hajj cemetery.
Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Barid. My metric number is 2224885. Inshallah, I will continue to the next part, which is discussion and scholar's perspective on comparison. Okay, Bismillah, let's start with the first view about the importance of logic. First, from the author perspective, we believe that logic is like the science of science, which is it's like a foundation that helps you to understand every other subject. And this is aligned with Imam Al-Ghazali in his kitab Al-Mustashfa, he positioning logic as an essential tool for theoretical sciences and deep research. And in the another part of the kitab, the authors describe that logic is like a sulam in Arabic language, which is it helps you to climb to higher place or higher level. And if we compare to what to learning, so logic will helps you to understand about complex knowledge. And he also says that logic is like a sword, because it's like a sharp tool used to distinguish what is true from what is hidden or what is false. Following to Imam al-Ghazali, the author agrees that logic is a measure of knowledge, which is without logic, a person's information cannot be fully trusted. He also said that logic is a religiosity, or if the study of logic, it is like a religiosity because he compares learning logic to learning the basic principle of religion, such as usul fiqh, tafsir, hadith. So logic will help you to understand more about usul fiqh, tafsir, and also about ulumul hadith. And it protects the mind from the making mistakes in making conclusion from some information. Okay, let's continue to the next part, which is about logic in speech and daily life. First, the author says that logic acts like conversation inside yourself. So if your internal thoughts are organized, your outward speech becomes clearer and more professional. And this is same to what Aristotle said in his book, and it's about the rhetorical triangle. He said that to be a powerful speaker, you need three things. First is ethos, second is pathos, and third is logos. Ethos is like you build your personality and trying to make another people is trust to you. And then second is pathos. In this part, you try to touch your object feeling. And then in logos, you try to make your speaking is make sense and make sure that it's understandable. And this is aligned with what Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in Hadith. A person's faith is only upright when their heart and tongues or speech are also upright.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nur Alif bin Azmi. My metric number is 2224435. I'm going to explain about the critical analysis of this book, Jawharat Al-Farida fi Hal Rumus Al-Kharida. This book was written by a scholar named Ibnu Al-Hajj Al-Sulami. He wrote this book to help students understand hard Arabic words and sentences. First, we go through the purpose of this book. What is this book about? It aims to clarify difficult and symbolic language because the book itself is written in very hard language, and the author helps students to understand implicit meanings because the book content is very hard to understand, and he acts as a bridge between elite text and learners. It makes easier to the student to understand it, and it designed mainly for traditional Islamic scholarship. This book is not a storybook, but it is a helper book. It explains another book called Al-Kharidah, which is very difficult. Many sentences in the Al-Kharidah are short but have deep meanings, so the author make the Asharh to clarify difficult and helps students to understand the deep meanings. Next is scholarly contribution. What did the author write in this book? It preserves classical interpretive tradition and supports learnings of advanced Arabic literature. It serves as a reference text for understanding complex expression, and this is very valuable in halaqah and Torah studies. The author wrote these books to help students. Some students read this book Al-Kharidah, but they do not understand it. So this book, written by Ibnu Al-Hajj Al-Sulami, he wrote his book to help the students to understand. So this book explains the meanings slowly and clearly. it supports learning of advanced Arabic literature, and it helps students to not feel confused and serve as a reference text for the understanding expressions. The strengths of this book from the language and rhetoric, it shows strong mastery of the Arabic language. يعني البلاغة rhetoric. This book is very good for learning Arabic because it contains a very high level of Arabic and balaghah. It reveals hidden meanings in concise expressions. He explained beautiful language and in a very smart sentences, and it also enhances appreciation of classical literary styles because it maintains the loyalty to the original text, and it is very suitable for advanced Arabic students, and this helps the advanced Arabic students to learn Arabic better. So for the weaknesses, what is not so good about this book, it is the accessibility. The book assumes prior knowledge from the readers. That means this book is not for the beginners. You need to have the basic knowledge before reading this book, because if you are a beginner, you will not understand this book. This book is very hard to read. The language can be dense and technical. It is less suitable for beginners. It is very limited, the use of examples and simplified explanations. There are not many examples, and so the beginners may be still confused if they read this book. And it also lack of critical engagement. The author mostly explains, not critiques the original author of the Al-Kharidah, as he accepts Al-Kharidah as authoritative. He does not critique the text. He mostly explains only, and the author does not argue or disagree to the original text. He only explains what the original book says. He believes that the original book Al-Kharidah is all correct, so he does not give many new ideas. No alternative interpretation offered, and it reflects classical norm, not modern critical style.
Writing methodology. First, biographical and tabaqat-based structuring. In this book, the author used biographical layering, a method originated from the Islamic tradition of tabaqat and tarajim. The author also inserted the documentation of the lives, teaching, and scholarly networks of prominent figures like Ibn Taymiyyah, Al-Zubaydi, and Al-Jabariti. These entries are not solely for historical purpose, yet they serve as epistemological factors in order to validate the knowledge transmission through authenticated chains, which means isnad. This approach is also indirectly reflects intellectual lineage. This is only to show where the credibility of the ideas cannot be separated from the credibility of their transmitters. Some of the phrases repeated to emphasize the significance of mutual recognition and scholarly endorsement. Second, rhetorical repetition and mnemonic reinforcement. The author also purposely wrote some phrases by extensive repetition. This may be excessive for modern readers, but it serves a mnemonic role in classical Arabic pedagogy. This approach enhances memorization, distinguishes key concepts, and highlights the importance of certain ideas, especially in theological and logical discussion. This can be seen through an example such as وما ألفت إليه أن العودة إلى المنطق كانت عودة إلى المنطق الصوري والأدوات is repeated to highlight the thesis of the author about the nature of modern engagement with logic. Following the oral tradition of Islamic scholarship, this repetition became a tool for clarity and retention. For the third point is evaluative and literary language. The author also utilized evaluative adjectives and literary enrichments in explaining and describing books or scholars. For example, phrases like أجداره بالاعتماد بالقراءة وأحقه بالاقتناء وأولاه show that the subject matter is beyond mere description and it elevates into intellectual virtue. This hagiographic tone is typical of classical Islamic literature, where scholars are portrayed not only as conveyor of knowledge, but as paragons of piety, humility, and moral excellence. The use of superlatives and rhythmic parallelism enhance the aesthetic appeal of the text while reinforcing its respectful stance. Now we move on to the fourth point of writing methodology: classical referencing and source integration. The book demonstrates a deep engagement with canonical sources including As-Salwa, Al-Ans, Taj al-Urus, and Mu'allamat al-Maghrib. These references are woven seamlessly into the narrative, providing both scholarly legitimacy and intellectual depth. Footnotes and marginalia are used by the author to cite sources, clarify points, and offer additional context. This reflects a manuscript culture where texts were dynamic, layered with commentary, and enriched by the voices of multiple scholars across generations. For the fifth, thematic and chronological organization. The structure of the book is methodical, divided into chapters and thematic sections that trace the evolution of logic across regions and eras, from the East to Andalusia to the Maghrib. This organization allows the reader to follow a historical trajectory, understanding how philosophical ideas migrated, transformed, and interacted with local culture. Such structuring is pedagogically effective, guiding the reader through complex material in a coherent and digestible format. This approach reflects the author's intent to present logic not as a static discipline, but as a living tradition shaped by context and interpretation throughout the years. And for the last, multidisciplinary integration. The author does not confine himself to one field only. Instead, he integrates logic, theology, jurisprudence, ethics, and history, demonstrating the interconnectedness of Islamic sciences. This holistic approach shows the classical model of the polymath scholar, where disciplines were not siloed but dialogically engaged. By discussing figures like Ibn Rushd and Al-Ghazali in relation to logic and referencing medical texts like At-Tashkhis fi Amrad al-Ain, the author illustrates logic within a broader intellectual ecosystem. This is to prove its relevance to both theoretical and practical domains.